think that it just like the current situation put them into that, because when we see what before these elections, like all of the candidates that were running and all of the popular candidates were Valery Tsepkalo, Viktor Babariko, Sergei Tikhanovsky, they were not allowed to run into the election, like they were put into the prison. And like women were the only ones who were like in that position that maybe they would never imagine them doing something similar like a month before, but they were in this situation. They just had to, because there were no one else who would do it. When the three teams of the candidates, three most popular positional candidates, when they've united, it sent a huge message, right? Like three smart, beautiful women who unite, and then there was this very strong picture with the signs. And I think it also inspired many other women. Like now, the only thing that people talk about is politics, nothing more. This is actually very funny. And also the other thing is during this election round, the president, like Lukashenko, he was saying very often very disrespectful things towards women. Like he would say that, oh, but our constitution is not made for women. Like, how could you imagine a woman to be a president? Or like he was saying like really unacceptable things for the current level of the development of the society. So it just women had to take the lead. After the first evening, like on the election day, when all of the violence in the streets started, when police started brutally detaining people, and it lasted for 2 or 3 days, and it was really, really horrible. Yeah, I think at least like 4 or 5 people died. And we all were following the news. Okay, first you can hear from the window, but second, yeah, you're following the news, what's happening via Telegram. In Telegram, as you know, like you can invite people in the chat. Then my friend adds me to a chat where basically it has just one message saying like, hey, we women, we can't just sit at home while our, I don't know, husbands, brothers are being killed in the street. So we have to do something. Let's meet tomorrow at 11 a.m. in the center, like wear white and take flowers. It also said like invite all of your girlfriends. And then this group, maybe like first it was like 100 people, right? Then you go there, you see like 1,000 people, and then it grew and grew. And then because you just invite your friends there. This was the first march where women went out in the street. There were maybe 200 or 300 people. But this event, it inspired also women to go into the streets all over the country because they saw police didn't know what to do, right? It was the start for the peaceful protests, more like the like very symbolic ones that even if there is violence, you don't answer. Then the next day, women went out, and the next day, and then it went over and over. One event inspires the other event, then more and more women. And I will see like grandmas marching in Minsk. And yeah, this is like talking on the positive side. Obviously, there are also like many also positive things. The arrests continue, protests continue. Police is as brutal as it was before. For example, yesterday, during the march, there were over 1,000 people arrested. And this is like really, really a lot. You know, people are asking like, oh, how is it like the coronavirus in Belarus? Like nobody's talking about, because currently for us, like coronavirus, it seems like the lesser evil of what we are experiencing with all the police brutality. And indeed, yesterday, the number of new infected cases was lower than the amount of arrested people daily. In March, I would think that what all that facilitated that level of political activity in the country, like some sort of awakening, it felt already from the very beginning in March, because the state didn't want to do anything with the virus. First, they were not helping much hospitals and doctors to protect they said that they would not support businesses if they decide to close. There were no national measures introduced. So people were organizing themselves. People were just angry. And then we had this election announced. And then you see three men with a very good reputation who announced that they would run for the presidency. None of them was active in politics in general in Belarus. All of them were coming more from business side. There was the space for somebody to come in because there was a need in the society. So I think if it wouldn't be those three people, then somebody else would emerge. So first three men, and then the women had to step in when they were arrested. The society needed already by that it was ready for change. That's why I think all of this political activity exploded. Because I think by that point also the society achieved some level of development, while what we have in the government it didn't change much in the 26 years. So there was this huge disbalance. Everybody knew before that we don't have free elections. Before, like, your attitude would be like, what can you change? You can go into the square with a flag alone, most probably you'll take into prison. Okay, that's it. You're becoming the victim of the regime. Politics before was something like which was a bit very radical. These people, those three people, yeah, they were coming from business, from not like, let's say, professional politicians. They all had some check of things that they did before. And people told, yeah, I trust you. I think they all three were quite popular, and they all had their own auditory of people. And this kind of unification, it also united Belarus in a way. Also, I'm thinking, like before when I was growing up, look at some prominent, like as you're growing up, you want to look up to someone. You would say, you'd find some person to whom you relate to, and then try to be like that person, like some role model, let's say. And I didn't have a role model in Belarus somehow. Okay, some of them were men, maybe, whom I liked, but it's not that like you would that much relate. So mostly I've been always looking abroad to people that inspire me. But now I'm also very happy that now like girls who are growing up in Belarus, like they really have the role models they look up to. A lot of people like Maria Kolesnikova, the way that she was like talking to policemen, the way she was participating in the protests. So I think it's a positive change. Okay, how I saw her first is when she announced that she will run for her husband because he was arrested and couldn't submit all of the documents to candidate. And there we see her. You could see that she's very like she was shy. She was not used to the camera. Maybe sometimes like when she was responding, she was maybe hesitant on some things. Like you would see that this is something that she does for the first time. She's not really enjoying it, but she made this decision. Then you see that it's not artificial. Like from the very start, okay, from the very start, I was like, you kind of you feel like that you even want to help her because the way, she's not used to things. But then over this time, I think she did a really also, and together with the team, I think that they did a very, very good job. And from where she was at the very start and where she is now, these are completely two, okay, not different, right? But you see a huge improvement in the way she presents herself, the way she talks to presidents all around Europe, right? She travels, she gives conferences. You still hear some kind of sincerity in what she says, in the way she is, and I think that also it's her example is quite inspiring, and like showing that okay, no matter where you are, okay, like you can do anything, no matter like from where you are coming from, if like there is something that you believe in. I think that is very inspiring. before she was taken away to Lithuania, she spent some, I think, 3 or 4 hours talking to the KGB and to many other officials. So we don't know what choices she was given what she is doing now. I think that it was the right decision, because going into the prison, yeah, she wouldn't be able to do all of this. I don't have any bad perceptions over her leaving. She's like president elected in exile, and we know that this is temporary while the situation gets better. Maybe we can also compare it to the case of Maria Kolesnikova. It was her principal position that she doesn't want to leave the country, and that she'll never leave the country, because what the state propaganda tries to do is that, oh, you know, that all of the protests are directed from the abroad, and then they ran away there, you know, that they try to discredit the image. Yeah, so it was the choice of Maria Kolesnikova. Now, of course, like, that story was, people admire her for what she did, but then they also admire Svetlana Tikhanovskaya. So I think this, whether leaving or not leaving, is just a choice, and it's more motivated by the personal beliefs of the politician. I don't find anything like whether good or bad or leaving or not leaving. Yeah, about the future and the success, I am quite sure that, yeah, we'll succeed sooner or later, and hopefully sooner. I don't even allow myself to think otherwise. Okay, I don't allow these kind of like different thoughts that it might happen differently, because this is a massive protest. This is not, you know, that some part of the population is not happy. But now we see everybody, like pensioners, students, doctors, factory workers. It's hard to imagine that now all of these people that I saw in the streets, that now they will all come back home and pretend, you know, that nothing happened. We changed so much. And all of those people who got this, you know, like sip of freedom, who saw what Belarus could become, it's hard now to convince them, you know, to stop it. So that's why what the government now is using is only power and strength. And now, like, if I know, speaking theoretically, the protest is peaceful. Okay, the government boss, they are using violence, right? But in theory, they would have used much more. They have a lot of like military. It could be like much worse, but they do not want to use that much violence, because most probably it might radicalize the protest as well. And people going into the streets are not ready to use violence. So that's why we are now in this situation that, yeah, this peaceful protest, it's nice, but it takes time. And people are getting tired. I think today it's 92 days as people go into the streets. And it's quite a lot, first physically, but also it's emotionally, because you're checking news, you are living in this like every single day, and like it's very draining. But the good part is that I think it's also the same for the people in the government who are currently supporting the regime, because they also scared. I hope that they understand that they are not doing a good thing. I hope that more and more people will start leaving and start supporting the regime, and it will just fall apart. Also, like, talking to my family, talking to friends, a lot of friends were detained. I think now I have more friends who have been to the prison than those who haven't been to prison. And what we are joking, like, you are not Belarusian if you haven't been to prison. It's hard. But yeah, hopefully, my parents are joking that hopefully for Christmas I'll come back home to a new country. Yeah, so I'm really hoping that, yeah, that by Christmas things get better. This kind of crisis brought about positive changes, kind of consolidated Belarusian nation. Yeah, now it's just like only one person needs to leave, and yeah, I think it would be a good country, yeah, to come back.